Welcome, everybody. This is Calvenn Starre, and you're joining us for Advancement in Leadership, a webinar series on the book The Disciplined Leader by John Manning. And this is 52 powerful, concise, amazing lessons on leadership and what we need to do as leaders. And so this book was intentionally written for CEOs, executives of different companies, presidents, stuff like that. But what I'm doing here is I'm taking the information and kind of translating it into the network marketing field. Because as an affiliate of network marketing, you need to be able to lead people. And that's a big, big thing here, that if you truly want to achieve success in network marketing, you've got to be able to lead. And so this is a concept, an idea that takes this information and takes it and kind of puts it into the terms of what a network marketer would need to do. So you're joining us. We're well into this. We're actually on chapter 46, which is avoid the dangerous gap between good ideas and execution. And as we always get started here in the Advancement in Leadership series and other webinar series that I do, we go into integration, which is a process to help you understand the information at a deeper level, to help you integrate it into your brain so that the information is called naturally and becomes just a part of who you are. And the best way to do that is through repetition. Repetition is the mother of all skill. And so what you need to do is to repeat things over and over and over again until they become known. Okay, so we go back to chapter 43, and we go back 3 weeks. So put more weight on why. From what I remember, this chapter was a really great one because it taught people to start to ask the question of why. As we're growing up as kids, we're always asking that question, why? Even so much that it actually has become a joke or an irritation with a lot of people. But the truth of it is that, there was that time where our parents finally said, okay, stop asking the question. And at some level, we stopped asking those questions of why things are the way they are. And chapter 43 was really about really creating that curiosity in people and having them start to ask that question of why. Why is something like that? And asking those questions, or actually that question of why is this the way it is an incredible sign of leadership. And that's what our kids are wanting to do. They're wanting to lead their own way because they're asking that question, okay, why is this? Why is that? And when you understand why something is, you have a deeper meaning and you have a deeper understanding, and you are more satisfied with it, and you'll actually do things that make sense to you, whereas you wouldn't do them if they didn't make sense to you or you didn't understand why. So really having that question of putting more weight on why we do things is great for leading people, but also getting them to lead themselves. And that's what we ultimately want people to do. We want people to start leading themselves. So then we go into chapter 44, which was cultivate curiosity, which is kind of, right on top of that last chapter. Really creating the curiosity in people to have those, desires to want to know exactly how to do things and how to figure things out. When you have a curiosity about something, you tend to be more engaged. You tend to be more focused and excited about it when you're truly curious. And that's also something that I would encourage you to do with the people that you're prospecting or getting to know as friends, is to really have a natural curiosity towards them and what they want and who they are and where they've come from. And that will translate into a more engaged and more caring type person that you ultimately are wanting to become, and really take an interest in people. So cultivate curiosity within your people and your team and the people that you're working with, and it will be a law of reciprocity where you'll give and they'll give. And that's really the idea of all relationship, is to be able to have an equal giving relationship. Then chapter 45, pick your battles, which was last week. This was something that was powerful because, if you find yourself exhausted at the end of the day, worn out, going through things in your life that you just don't understand why you happen to keep going through them, well, you need to look at picking your battles and really focus on the battles that you can, that will make a difference. And I always look at this from the standpoint of what's in your control. If something is truly out of your control, like a person or a thing or an idea or a decision that somebody's made, you've got to let it go because it's their decision to make. You've got to figure out, okay, what can I do in this situation for myself? What can I do to make this right? What can I do to make this, okay with myself and relieve some of the stress? but really learn to start picking your battles. I mean, if somebody is always a certain way, why would you fight them? Why would you resist them? Just let it be, let it go, move on, go somewhere else, do something else, and make that a part of your process. And at the end of each day, you should be able to go, you know what, I feel really good today. I feel really great. I don't feel drained. I don't feel exhausted. And that's what you should be looking for. And that was what chapter 45 was, is pick your battles. And so let's get into chapter 46 again, which is avoid the dangerous gap between good ideas and execution. Don Cornelius said, when you come up with a good idea, you don't have to do a whole lot. The idea does it for you. And that's more about inspiration and really being inspired. When you have an amazing idea and it's inspiring something within you, all of a sudden everything changes and you start to find the time, you find the energy, you find all these things. That's inspiration. And that's a really great idea. And then that gap that he's talking about in chapter 46 is shrunk because it's immediate. And so that's where you have to really focus on. Look for that inspiration in your life. The best way to have a good idea is to have a lot of ideas. Linus Pauling. This is a great one too, because one of the books that I'm reading, James Altucher, and it's the Choose Yourself Guide to Wealth. He talks about writing down 10 ideas a day. It doesn't have to be, business ideas, but it's just any ideas, 10 ideas a day to build that muscle, right? Build that muscle on good ideas, because when you have a lot of ideas, there's no shortage of having a good one, okay? So let's get into this about avoiding this dangerous gap. We have all fallen in love with a new idea that had promise and then fell apart during the implementation phase. I mean, how many of us have had that? In fact, a lot of us in network marketing, we've had those companies, we've had those ideas, we've had those enrollments where you get really excited, you're going to do it, and all of a sudden it just kind of falls apart. And so, you have to look at that, because there could be a number of reasons why it fell apart. But honestly, it's going to be something that has to do with you. Now, too much time between the idea and the execution of the idea can cost time, money, and resources. So waiting too much time before you make that decision, or waiting too much time before someone receives their product, which is a really big one, which is that buyer's remorse, can really create a very dangerous gap, especially if someone goes home that they've just enrolled but they haven't received product, and they go home and they tell everybody about it, and there's a big gap between that idea of sharing with them how much money they spend versus actually being able to use and get the product. It can make things fall apart completely. In fact, when I've been in companies and also running companies, one of the major things I tell people out in the field to do is make sure you have product on hand to give them, so that when they go home, after they have purchased the product or enrolled in the company, make sure they go home with the product so they can share it with the people that they love and that are going to be questioning them. And that takes a huge thing off the plate, which is that, I don't really understand this, and maybe you're right, I probably shouldn't have done that, right? So think about that, because that's just a small gap, but it's definitely a dangerous gap. Now, the idea, and this is one thing we're going to jump into a little bit of the leadership side of it, the idea must be aligned with greater goals to outweigh the risk. So if something is aligned with somebody's, health or wellness or their internet, let's say it's a autoresponder type deal or something like that, then that's fine, because people are going to go, yeah, that's aligned with who I am. Or it's a health product, they're going to be like, yeah, I'm into my health and I want to do this, and so it's going to align. So it kind of outweighs the risk a little bit. But if something's brand new, somebody really hasn't ever tried something before, like for their health or for weight loss or energy or anything like that, then it may be a little bit more risky, because they could easily justify not doing it and then instead of actually doing it. Now, good ideas do not mean anything unless you can execute them. Not try them, but I'm talking about executing them. And when I say execute them, I mean that they actually go into process and they actually happen. That is key in this industry, is to actually execute the things that you can do yourself and that you know that you can do. Too many ideas up in the air, kind of airy-fairy type thing, are not good, because they don't ever get executed properly. People can try them, but they don't really happen. And so, don't think that, a good idea is something that you have to try. No, think about it first and kind of lay it out and figure out if it's something that you could fully execute, okay? When you chase shiny objects, you will use up all your energy and efforts. And this goes to so many of us that have experienced this, where you're jumping from, product to product, company to company, idea to idea, and you never give anything enough energy and effort to what? Properly execute them. And that becomes a challenge. And so, when you start a system, when you start a company, you've got to give it time. You've got to give it a full effort. You've got to execute the things that you need to do to make it work, and not just kind of dip your toe in the water, so to speak. You've got to actually try it or execute it and really go for it and put everything into it to make sure that it's something that's going to be properly executed. Now, when you chase the shiny objects and you jump from company, you're never going to be successful. And you know what? You're never going to create that true success and wealth that you're looking for. So stop chasing the shiny objects and stick with what you know, and also really work on executing what you know. Instead of work out the details and make some plans before you attempt to execute them. So instead of chasing the shiny objects, really lay out a plan. Lay out what you're going to do every day. Write down how many calls you're going to make, how many follow-ups you're going to do, how many emails you're going to send out, how many text messages you're going to send out, how many Facebook posts you're going to do. Work out the details and make some plans before you attempt to execute, so that way that you know exactly what it's going to take in order to achieve that success. If you do that, you're more likely to succeed, because when things get rough or you get distracted, you can always go back to that list and go, okay, I need to do this, and this in order to create that success today. And so stick with that and really focus on that and work out those details. Then also, too, the one thing that you need to consider, because this is something a lot of people don't consider, they don't consider the time, money, and resources needed and necessary to implement a good idea. Like, you're going to need time, you're going to need money, you're going to need resources to be able to implement some of the systems and ideas that you want to do in order to make things successful. And this is why, a lot of network marketing companies get a bad rap, because they go and, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to recruit anybody. You don't have to sell anybody. And it's like, oh my gosh, they're so, wiping their first people out, because, people have to know it is going to take time. It is going to take money. And you are going to have to use some resources to execute, being able to make money. I mean, believe me, as a networker in this industry for more than 15 years, if there was something out there that we could just sit back and never do anything and never recruit, never buy, never share, never do anything and make money, we'd all be doing it, right? But instead, you've got those people that will, they kind of get sold on it and they believe it and they go do it and then they think it's the industry and it's not what their decision was. So here's a strategy for testing your ideas, okay? So number one is determine if the new idea aligns to the core strategies of who you are, okay? Put it up against you and your company's strategy and mission. So like, you've got to look at, okay, if this is an idea that you're wanting to run with where it has to do with like a new online internet marketing system, well, if it's scratch and sniff, stickers, then it's not going to work because it's going to be online. How are they going to scratch and sniff? Like, you've got to really look at things and go, okay, well, if I teach people parties, but now I've got this new system where they're not going to have to do anything, be careful. You're going to kill the current ideas and success that you're having, because you're going to have people start to believe that something else will work rather than what is actually working. So really determine if that new idea and strategy aligns to your core strategies and what you've been teaching, and put it up against your company's strategy and mission. Is it really going to help people? Is it really going to align people? And really figure out, like, maybe this isn't such a great idea. If people did this alone, they would probably get rid of most of the ideas that are brought to them or that they have, because they know that it doesn't line up. Number two, evaluate if you have the right people and resources. Also, do not take away from your current team's success and strength. So I'm kind of mixing these two a little bit, but really find out, okay, is your team, if I've seen teams like this where they're all like faxes and, they don't have checking accounts and stuff like that. But so you don't want to try and sell them an internet marketing system. You don't want to do that. Find out and make sure that the people that you're working with are speaking the same language when it comes to what they want to do. Are they technologically savvy? Because the last thing you want to do for somebody who's having success, and then you're going to throw in some technological thing that's going to throw them off, well, that's going to screw your business up. So really think before you start to implement anything is this right for my people? Is this right for the resources that I have and the people that I'm working with? And don't take away from your current team's success. You'll completely shoot yourself in the foot. And then number 3, determine the true costs. What's really involved? Not only time, energy, resources, but also money. Money is one of them. Obviously, you've got to look at that and say, okay, what's it going to take to implement? What's it going to take for people to actually use and really create that success, and really kind of go through the ideas, the pros and the cons, so to speak, of what the true costs are, but also like the money is, and all these different things that we fail to look at a lot of times. And you'll get a good gut feeling. And this is where you've got to start trusting. Does it inspire you? Does it inspire you to really want to make this change or this difference or go with this process? And if it does, then that's a good sign that it's probably something that's going to work. So let's get into take action now. Evaluate new ideas against your company strategy and mission. So this is number 1, and your vital few. So really make sure that it's in alignment with who and what you are, who and what your company is, what your product is, and what it's going to do for people. Don't look for the easiest way out. Don't look for something that's going to save you all this time by taking you out of the business of what it is you truly need to do, which is be with people or work with people. So if a new idea doesn't align with these important leadership and organizational factors, say no to it. Like, that's being a leader. Remember, we go back to one of the first few chapters. Being able to say no is a huge leadership quality that most people don't have, and you've got to find the ability to say no. Number 2, determine whether your team has the capability to execute the idea. Like I said before, make sure you're not giving something technological to a bunch of people that don't really understand technology very well. Believe it or not, there are a lot of people out there that have cell phones and smartphones that don't understand how they work or can't use them. And so if you try to make it for them or try to get them to use something, it's going to distract them from what their normal process is. And so you don't want to do that. So really figure out, is this worth it for my team? Is this something that I'm going to be able to really get going? Because if your team is doing like home meetings, the last thing you want to do is give them an internet marketing system to get them out of their element, and start to really screw up the home meetings. Number 3, work with your team to implement a formal decision-making process for new ideas. And this is more for the top leaders. To really, okay, so I have this idea, bounce it off some of your key people. Look at the time, money, and resource requirements that you're going to need in order to implement this with your team, and ask that question. Okay, guys, is this something we want to implement? Never be that one person that makes all the decisions for everybody. It never works out in your favor. So get a few people, get some of your top leaders, and bounce those ideas off of them, and really listen to what they have to say and what ideas they have. Because maybe some of their ideas are going to be more in alignment with what you're looking to do, and that's going to help you take your business to the next level. And so when you do all these different steps, you'll definitely avoid that dangerous gap between the good ideas and the execution, and that will allow you to be able to really, move forward in your execution and really make some big changes and some successful changes in your leadership. So that's really what this is about. Now, we always do it here. We pay it forward by leaving a comment below on what you are the most grateful for in your life today, and what you learned from this webinar. So again, I thank you, and I'm grateful for your leadership. Showing up is the first step, and I will see you next week.